Hello, hello, hello. It is 6:45 p.m. and this is Erica. Happy New Year. Happy New Year 2025. This is the year to definitely take more control of your health and set some good habits in motion, or just pick something that you feel that you want to work on. Given the state of health care or sick care in this country, for those of you who are on Bernardo's dedicated email list, you know, or you should have seen if you check your inbox, that I sent out an email just talking about New Year's resolutions, being inside, and I also included a couple of video links to a talk Bernardo had, oh my goodness, when he was well into his hundreds, with a gentleman who I guess was a spokesperson for the 120 Club. So there's a group of people out there who could feel that they could live and be healthy at least to the age of 120. And also I included another video, a clip of Bernardo just encouraging you to take control of your health, your destiny, your mental state. He said, might be a little difficult in the beginning, but I think you can do it. So in that spirit, given the dramatic events that happened in New York City about a month ago, you've probably heard of the name Luigi Mangione by now, and just really the tragic situation of healthcare or sick care in this country. And I wanted to come here today. Again, my name is Erica, and I'm Bernardo's oldest grandchild. I wanted to come on here today and just give you some encouragement. I created a poll. Hopefully you'll be able to see that, and ask if you picked a resolution this year, yes or no. Maybe you want to comment on what you decided to do. But I wanted to go over, or just talk about some very, very simple things that you can do for your 2025. As always, I am using as a reference Bernardo's fabulous book, Age Less, Live More, Achieving Health and Vitality at 107 Years and Beyond. So he basically completed this book with Anne Cornelius when he was 106, and it finally saw the light of day, after going through the editing process and the layout and all of that, when he was 108. Now, for myself, I'm 61 years old now. I'm going to be 62 April 8th of 2025 of this year, and I read this book every year. And also, I'm always using it as a reference. And so I thought it would be fun today, and let me know in the comment section below if you would like me to continue this into 2025, because my aim is to be more present here in 2025. If you would like, to kind of go on in this vein, because there are so many pearls of wisdom in this book. So to that end, I am going to take some time after I go over some basics here, and pick one of them and go more in depth, reading directly from Bernardo's book so you can hear what he had to say in his own words. As many times as I've read this book, I feel like every time I read it, it becomes new. And I think that's partly because of the fact that, like you, I'm moving through my life, and I'm aging, I'm getting older, and things kind of hit you differently the older you get as you mature. All right, Gail Turner Abbott says that's a yes. Okay. Hi, Gail. So nice to have you here this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, so as the kids say, let's get into it. Okay, so in the email I sent out, I just really focused on about, half a dozen things that you could do. The first one was to eat at regular times, This is extremely important, but it's something that we tend to forget, or we can forget as we get older and we move into our adult life and we're juggling different responsibilities, right? Our job, our work, our social life, our family life, maybe we're commuting. So it's very easy, too easy, to let this go by the wayside. Now, you may remember when you were a child that, breakfast was at a certain time, dinner was at a certain time. At least that's the way I grew up. You had to be, dinner was at a set time every evening and you were expected to be at the dinner table. The point I'm trying to make here is that children really need structure, and they really do better when they have regular times, to eat. We forget as we grow older that, in a sense, we're always those kids because, well, we still have a body, right? We still have a human body, and that we can also benefit from continuing to stick to a regular schedule. If you stick to a regular schedule and eat at a regular time, you're going to find that your energy levels stay more even, that they stay more constant. Of course, you want to pick something to eat that is not just going to be a crash and burn type of situation, right? I mean, just drinking coffee and expecting that to sustain you in a healthy way throughout the day is not necessarily the best choice. So in Bernardo's case, he ate oatmeal. That was his go-to break fast. He ate oatmeal. He preferred steel-cut oats, right? They're higher in quality. Takes a little effort. You have to soak them the night before, right? So they're soft enough. Takes a little bit longer to cook, but there's a higher nutritional value in that. And also, it gives you that sustained energy because it burns more slowly, right? So again, the importance is to stick to a regular time. So everyone has got a different time that they break their fast because everyone has a different metabolism. In my case, I find that I break my fast at 11 a.m. The way my body works, I find it difficult to really eat anything substantial like my bowl of oatmeal before that time. But if I'm on the go, or if you are on the go, if you have to leave the house and you can't have the luxury of being at home, let's say on the weekend, so you can break for your fast at that set time, very simple, get yourself a container, right? And pack your breakfast with you. So when you get to your destination, you can have your regular meal. It's very, very important. So me, being a very busy person, that's what I do. I relish the time that I can be at home, but I pack my meals with me to make sure that I have those during the day. Now, Grandpa Bernardo would say that this is very important to be consistent with this, because when you train your body, right, just like you're training a child to eat at the same time every day, if you're training your body and it's expecting oatmeal at 11 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever time it is, and then you don't do that, it throws your body clock off. It throws your metabolism off. Your stomach, will start producing different digestive enzymes in anticipation of getting that meal at a particular time. Of course, this applies to lunch and to dinner as well. So then, you can experience, kind of different digestive discomfort. So again, that's another benefit at eating at a regular time. Now, the other thing you can do, again, is that if you're a person on the move, and so many of us are in this modern scenario that we're living in, is that you can bring snacks with you as well, right? So perhaps you can bring yourself a packet of trail mix, fruit, nuts, so on, very high in protein. That's another source. That was also one of Bernardo's favorite snacking foods. Or something that I found useful, maybe you want to share what you find useful and put that in the comments below, is that I would bring an apple with me. So for a considerable amount of time, for about 2 years or so, I had a fixed appointment in the evening, and this fixed appointment would actually kind of run through my dinner time. And then after I left this appointment on a Monday evening, I would get on my bicycle and I would bike about 7 miles home. Yes. So when I would come out of the appointment, because it was literally cutting into my dinner time, I would feel this dip in energy. So I realized pretty quickly that if I brought something like a fresh, crisp, organic, juicy apple with me, I could eat that apple before I got on my bike and took that bike ride home, and I felt good. My energy level was boosted. I gained mental clarity, and I was eating something that wasn't a candy bar that was going to spike my sugar and then make me crash, right? And that it was also good for my digestion. So that's something you could do as well. So we've talked about trail mix and we've talked about apples. You could also bring a smoothie with you. Now, of course, you know around here we're big fans of Dr. Schultz and Dr. Schultz's superfood smoothies. But in case you didn't know, there are also Dr. Schultz bars that he's come out with. So you get that same nutritional value, but without all the sugar. Because if you look at a lot of these protein bars, they have a very, very high amount of sugar, you know, high fructose corn syrup and all kinds of nonsense in it, right? Because it gives you that initial energy boost and it's cheap to do. But you can also buy bars as well. Or perhaps you can make sure that you've got your little superfood tablets with you. That's something else you can do just to sustain your energy. So those are just some, tips and ideas that you can implement as part of your New Year's regime so you can keep your energy levels on an even keel. It's not just for kids, it's also for adults, because as adults, we tend to push ourselves and burn out and then wonder why we fall sick and we develop all kinds of strange diseases. Okay, so now I want to get on to the second point, which I'm going to go into more depth at the end of this, later on in this little talk that we're having here. Walk a mile every day. Walk a mile every day. You may think that's impossible. How could I walk a mile every day? You could work up to it. You could work up to walking a mile every day. Bernardo walked a mile every day, right? He would get up. I'm sure some of the people watching are runners, or maybe you're power walkers, or maybe you go to the swimming pool in the morning. But the point is that you want to do at least a solid 30 minutes of exercise, right? Because this is very good for your mood. This is good for your attitude. This is good for your circulating your blood, which is very important because your blood, of course, is delivering healing nutrients to the major organs in your body, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your brain, your joints. And it's also very important for getting, your lymphatic system, right? So your lymphatic system, getting those fluids out of the body and detoxifying your body on a regular basis. It's free. And you can do it if you can't go outside. Perhaps you have a walker that you can use, not a walker, but I should say a treadmill. There's perhaps a little treadmill that you can do at home, right? Hi, Nudine Evans, welcome. So that's something else you can do, and I really can't underplay that. You want to keep it moving, and you don't want to sit on that, because a sedentary lifestyle, it will creep up on you, right? And then eventually you find yourself in a situation where you're heavier than you want to be. then you get into a place where you don't really want to exercise because it's painful to exercise, it's painful to move, right? Because of that, and some other various concerns, which, as I said, I'm going to go more in depth to when we take a little bit of a deep dive here in Bernardo's book. So make a resolution, make a vow to keep it moving in whatever way that you choose. But again, walking is free. And nowadays, with all these fancy gizmos, with Apple Watches and all of that, you can very easily, keep track of your steps. Now, if you can't do a mile right away, that's okay. Start with maybe a quarter of a mile and then work your way up. You've got the whole year to improve on that. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is the importance of relaxation. Relaxation, by and large, really gets downplayed in our, busy and pretending to be busy and running around lifestyle. There's not a lot of emphasis really on taking time every day to relax. But relaxation is just as important for your health as exercise is. It's extremely important because it reduces stress. Stress is a killer, right? If you're stressed out, you're going to have high blood pressure. You're going to be in anxiety. You're not going to be able to think clearly. You're not going to be able to find that emotional balance that you need. You're not going to be able to spend that time, with yourself. You're not giving your body adequate time to heal and to rest. Hi, Jean. So, this is one thing, and I may have shared the story before, but this is something that really, really struck me about Bernardo. I would go and visit my grandfather frequently when he and Georgette were still living in Jackson Heights, Queens. I used to love to hang out with them. I preferred hanging out with older people, frankly, than people my own age. So I would go and hang out with them, and typically I would get there before Bernardo got home from work. So he was very active in his work life. He was massaging. He had his own practice. In his 80s, right? In his 90s. At any rate, at this juncture in his life, he was going to work and he was coming home, and he had his routine. He would come home and he would say hello and he would hang up his keys, and we would chit chat for a little while. And of course, I loved being around him. And then he would go into his den. He had his own man cave where he would watch the ball game, where he would read, right? Where he would write, where maybe he would talk to people on the phone. So me, like a little puppy dog, I followed Grandpa to the door of his man cave, and we were talking. And then all of a sudden he just said, "And now I'm going to relax." And he closed the door. My grandfather closed the door in my face. Not in a mean way, but he made his announcement, "Now I'm going to relax," and close the door. So for him, relaxation was something that was an integral part of his life, and that was part of his health routine, for his mental health, for his physical health, right? Just to have that time to be quiet or watch the ball game. You all know that my grandfather was a big baseball fan, particularly of the Yankees, right? That was his team. And so that's what he would do. And so as a young person, right, as someone in their teens, early teens, this really made a big impression on me. I thought, wow, for Grandpa, relaxation is an activity. Relaxation is something sacrosanct. It is something that he does every day. He comes home from work. He leaves that job outside. Once he gets home, He's in his sanctuary, right? He's the king of his castle. And he takes that time after, of course, greeting his wife and greeting, perhaps his granddaughter who's there is visiting. And he had absolutely no guilt about taking time for himself. And this is something that he did on a regular basis. And I know that this is definitely one of the reasons why he lived such a long and healthy life. So I'd love to see what you have to say in the comment section about what you do to relax when you get home, or maybe when you rise in the morning. Do you watch the sunrise? Do you watch the sunset? Do you soak your feet in an Epsom salt bath with extra virgin olive oil and relax in that way? Do you take a hot bath? Do you meditate? Do you read a book? I'd really love to know what you do or what you're planning to do in 2025, because we all have our weaknesses, right? My grandfather was extraordinary, extraordinarily disciplined, but probably for most of us, we need a little help. Okay, so we've talked about eating at regular times. We've talked about walking a mile every day, or aspiring to walk a mile every day, engaging in, regular exercise, not putting it off, because if you don't use it, you lose it. We talked about the importance of relaxation, and a couple of other things I want to talk about here, which you may have noticed in the newsletter, is I want to talk about the importance of, we're getting to that age now, of spending time with your grandchildren. Or maybe you don't have grandchildren. Hey, Julie. Maybe you have a niece or a nephew. Or maybe you volunteer somewhere, like at a Boys and Girls Club, and you spend time with kids, right? But again, now that I'm in my early 60s, I'm really appreciating the time that I get to spend with my grandchildren, because they keep me young. They want to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. They demand a kind of connection with them. It's very important to them that I connect with them, not that I'm just there and I'm sort of absent or not really interested in what they have to say or how they're doing in school or how their sports are going, or, various different things like this, right? And I find that because my grandchildren's brains are younger and fresher and more plastic, as it were, that they have got a lot to teach me. I actually learn a lot from them, and I'm also amazed at their intelligence. A great honor, of course, is being designated as the boogeyman and having to chase them around the yard. That's a lot of fun. But I think one thing that children can bring out in us, if we're lucky enough to have grandchildren or have some children in our lives, is that they help keep us young, they help keep us joyful, right? They help us put the focus on someone else other than just ourselves. They really look up to us, right? They look up to us emotionally. They look up to us as being someone who's going to be a steady person in their life. We can be a source of comfort. We can be a source of affection. We can be a source of encouragement for them, which really lights them up, which of course in turn lights us up, because that gives us an understanding of how important we are, right? That we do have a role to play. It's not just because we're getting older that suddenly we're not important. We're extremely important. Your humor, your laughter, or perhaps the young person in your life is going through some kind of a challenge. And because they haven't lived that long, they have of course have a very, very narrow perspective, right? Everything seems absolute to them. So just being around you and having your encouragement and having your wisdom, right, can help them get through rough patches in their life. I know that this was definitely true for me, is that I would spend time, with my grandfather as much as I could. And, we had our, growing up, I don't think anyone is exempt from some kind of, drama in some form or another when you're growing up. And of course, I was no different. So I took great comfort in listening to him, talking to him, getting his wisdom, his perspective, learning about his life, and also just that soothing quality, that he brought to the table. So this also just kind of feeds into having a purpose in life, right? Feeling that your life is important, that you have a purpose, that you have meaning, you are important to someone. Maybe you like to spend time with pets. Maybe you like to spend time at the animal shelter, right? Maybe that's what gives you a feeling of purpose and joy, because you're bringing comfort to another living entity outside of yourself. So, in other words, this kind of ties into being social, right? Being sociable in some way. Now, some of us have higher tolerances for being, social, and some of us may be a little bit more introverted and a little bit more quiet about that. But I think we can all find a way to be social and have these interactions, with people around us that keep us alive, that keep us thinking, that keep us from withdrawing into ourselves. Because becoming isolated definitely has a detrimental effect on our health. One thing about Bernardo was that he had an incredible social life. He had an incredible social life, and he had a social life literally up until the day that he died. So that's very, very important. Okay. So, please put a comment below and let me know, what you're doing to stay active, right? To stay healthy, to stay upbeat, or if that's something that you would like to work on. So, as promised, I said that I was going to read a section from this book. Now, I kind of tuned in to chapter 2, which is called An Object in Motion. So there's a quote here that said, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?" from Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige, of course, was a great baseball player, a great athlete. And in this chapter, Bernardo spends a lot of time talking about the importance of movement and keeping it moving. So I've already talked about the fact that he walked a mile or even 2 miles a day. But I want to zone in here on a few pages, starting with page 57, which he talks about DNA, telomeres, and aging. For those who may not know, DNA is a special curled up molecule that sits in the middle of every single cell in our bodies. You're welcome, Jean. Thank you for your encouraging comments. I really appreciate you. It contains the actual blueprint that makes us who we are. DNA determines our hair color, our bone structure, and pretty much everything else. Every cell, protein, enzyme, everything in our bodies could not exist without healthy, functioning DNA. When it is damaged, whether from poor diet or too much sun or pollution or whatever else, we suffer the ill effects. Now, what I like about this, what he's pointing out here, is it is pointing out that we actually have control over our health right down to a cellular level, right? So he says again, every cell, protein, enzyme, everything in our bodies could not exist without healthy functioning DNA when it is damaged, whether from poor diet. Poor diet. A healthy diet, a diet full of nutrients, is really extremely important. So this gets into the realm of nurture, right? There's nature, you're born with a certain set of things, and then there's nurture, right? So depending on how you nurture or how you don't nurture, right, that is going to determine the outcome of your health. So something to keep in mind. Recently, an interesting connection was made between aging and exercise. A study from King's College in England looked at the DNA of a group of people and compared their telomeres. Telomeres are like protective caps on the end of our DNA that protect the DNA from damage, just like little plastic ends on the tips of shoelaces that keep them from fraying. As we age, the telomeres get shorter and shorter until eventually they disappear altogether. When that happens, the DNA begins to be damaged and no longer makes healthy cells. So the telomeres are really important to protect your cells so they can produce healthy cells. So health begins at a cellular level. There are tests that measure telomere length and can be used to determine a person's true biological age. When tested, the telomeres of those who exercised regularly were longer than the telomeres of those who did not. The researchers concluded that people who exercise at least 30 minutes per day are biologically younger than those who are sedentary. So exercise actually keeps us young. All the more reason to put the comfy chair in the classifieds and go out on the grass. Not that Grandpa didn't have a comfy chair. He actually did have a comfy chair, and that was his lazy boy, and he would use that when he came home to relax. But again, he certainly did not look his biological age. I will post a photo, which I've posted before, but I will post a photo that's actually found in the book Beyond 100, How to Live Well into Your Second Century, that was published when my grandfather reached 112 years, right? 112 years old. And it's amazing how he's moving. I believe he was about 111 when the photograph was taken, right? And he does not look his age. So keep that in mind. Now, I had mentioned the importance of draining the lymphatic system. So I'm going to read a little bit about that right now. This is on page 59, again, from An Object in Motion. Okay. Walk as if your lymph depended on it. Many people have heard of the lymph system with its associated ducts and nodes, but very few actually know what it is and how important it is to overall health. The lymphatic system is crucial, however, to the proper functioning of our immune system and the removal of toxins from the body. If a person wants to stay healthy as they age, this is one set of plumbing they need to pay attention to. Much like the circulatory system, with its arteries, veins, and blood, the lymph system also consists of various ducts and channels carrying fluid around the body. The fluid brings life-giving oxygen and sugar to our cells and takes away the waste toxins like carbon dioxide and lactic acid to be filtered out and discarded. It also produces substances that help fight off viruses and destroy abnormal cells within the body. I don't know about you, but I find this absolutely fascinating. So I'm going to bring this up now. Of course, Bernardo was a massage therapist. Okay, keep that in mind. There is twice as much lymphatic fluid in our bodies as blood. There is twice as much lymphatic fluid in our bodies than blood, but there is no heart to move the large volume of fluid around. Only muscle contractions caused by physical movement act as the pump that circulates the roughly 10 quarts of fluid around the body, dropping off food for the cells and picking up the waste for disposal within the liver and the kidneys. If you want to make a comment about this, I'd love to hear what you think about the lymphatic system. I mean, to me, this is fascinating to me. Okay, to go on. Normally, the pale liquid makes 1 circuit per day, but through moderate exercise and proper breathing, this can be improved by perhaps 3 times. The greater the flow, the less waste accumulates and backs up into our blood, and the better we function overall. It is essentially like keeping the sink drain unclogged. Otherwise, the dirty water accumulates with nowhere to go. There's an example that comes to mind right now. If you've ever been out drinking for a night, or you have a friend who's been out drinking for the night, what do they look like the next morning? They look puffy, they look red, right? They're all inflamed. That's because, their lymphatic system is on fire, right? It's like all those toxins from all that drinking is, sort of trapped right there in the face. Of course, there's little different exercises that you can do, tapping and so on to help drain the lymphatic system in the face. And this is something that ladies might know more about because, of course, as ladies, we're always trying to look youthful. So this is a trick. This is something you can do. Walking turns out to be one of the best ways to keep the lymph fluid in motion. The reasons are twofold. First, the simple motion of walking with its up and down action seems to be very effective at getting the lymphatic fluid to pick up the pace. Even a moderate walk, for perhaps 15 to 20 minutes per day, appear to have a very positive influence on the functioning of the lymph system. As a side benefit, walking is usually accomplished by deeper breathing, and the extra motion of the lungs and diaphragm help to pump fluid through the system. One of the main ducts, called the thoracic duct, resides at the base of the neck and is driven by the activity of breath. I'll be discussing the many benefits of proper breath a little later in this chapter. Finally, there is another method of bolstering lymph flow, and that is deep massage. As a licensed massage therapist, I cannot begin to tell you of the myriad benefits that proper massage can have on the body and the mind, especially as one begins to age. In the case of the lymph, a properly administered massage coaxes the fluid along the way, from the extremities toward the chest, where it mixes with the blood and gets scrubbed by the liver. Keeping this little understood system clear and in motion is crucial for proper health and longevity. A sedentary lifestyle, the proverbial rocking chair retirement, is almost certain to lead to real complications to one's health and a decrease in the overall quality of life. The solution is simple. Walk as if your lymph depended on it. So, this chapter, as promised, he talks about the importance of breathing in this chapter. Breathing is also great for reducing anxiety and reducing stress. You'll notice that babies breathe very deeply and they breathe from their diaphragm. He goes a little bit more into the importance of massage. And he also talks about the importance and the need for human touch, right? Hugs. Hugs are great. for example, or holding someone's hand. He also talks about the importance of taking care of your feet, because of course your feet are carrying you. And if you want to walk, you know, a mile or so a day, you don't want to have feet that are aching, right? And then you're burdened with bunions and calluses and so on and so forth. So in this chapter, you know, he really talks about motion in a variety of different ways, not just the mere act of, you know, physical exercise, which of course is important, but how that affects the breathing, how it affects the brain, how it affects the circulation, and all these different things. So it is now 7:26 p.m. I have been talking for 45 minutes, and it is a Sunday evening here in the East Coast. It's already 7:26. If you're watching from elsewhere, it may be a little bit earlier or a little bit later, but maybe, let me see, maybe someone has a comment again that they want to post here. Maybe someone wants to ask a question. Maybe someone has already asked a question. Okay, I guess no one has any questions. All right then. So again, you know, my aim is to be more present, and my aim is to schedule a little talk, you know, at the very least once a month. I might not be able to do a live, you know, every week, but I think that this year in 2025, I can, you know, at least schedule something every month, and we can kind of continue on these topics, because there's a lot more to read in this particular chapter in this book, and a lot more to uncover. And I'm also interested in how you're doing and how your experiences are going. So if no one has anything that they want to say or contribute, that's fine. I think I will end here, and I want to thank you very much for spending time. You should be seeing a poll if you want to take an opportunity, and it's a simple yes or no poll. Whether you picked any resolutions this year, yes or no, that's simple enough. Maybe you want to add a comment, and you want to ask me maybe to focus on something, you know, in particular. I love to hear from you. I'm very inspired by you. And with that being said, I just want to encourage you not to give up, and just to be consistent, you know, at what you do, not to be hard on yourself, to be consistent, because as it has become very, very clear, and it's becoming clearer and clearer, Bernardo's message and Bernardo's example of health and longevity is more vital than ever before, particularly in the United States of America, that has a completely broken by design, you know, healthcare system. So for you to be an example, and to understand and to put that in motion, and to inspire somebody else, a young person in your life, or maybe a peer, you know, to feel better and to feel good, it really can't be overstated. Now, granted, sometimes things happen in life. You know, we might find ourselves in an accident, right? Something unforeseen. But by and large, there's really a lot that we can do to take control of our health. So with that, it's now 7:29 p.m. and I wish you a very pleasant evening wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Good night.